effect of negative implications for the lives of those people. And again, at the time it was half of the planet. Now I think it's a third of the planet that still doesn't have access to the internet. I mean, just think, lack of communication, right, with people, lack of access to insights, right? You're not able to reach.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Actionable ESG Talk Series brought to you by AKFI, Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute, the world's first nonprofit industry association committed to bridging the gap between ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. My name is Isabella. I am the co host of this talk series here with Manuel, another co host, also the executive director at the AKFI organization, and our special guest today, Christian. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking the time joining us. And thanks to this talk series, we get to connect with great minds from all over the world to together discuss the current state and the future state of ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. Christian is the CEO and the co-founder of Curator.com. It's a B2B sustainability tech scouting platform that uses data to help businesses find the best solutions to meet their sustainability goals. Previously, Christian worked for the World Economic Forum, focusing on the impact of digital technologies on businesses and wider society while managing dedicated deep dives on business models and exploring the implications of exponential technologies. Once again, thank you for taking the time, Christian, today. To open up our conversation, please share with us your thoughts and insights on the emerging trends in today's science-based sustainability. What do you find most promising? How do you see them shaping the future of our environmental practices and policies in general?
Absolutely. And first of all, congratulations also for the work you do with your institute, your foundation. I was super happy to see, the frameworks that you put together. So I watched some of the content you've created because as someone who comes, from the area of digital innovation, digital transformation, and I have been, in the recent years kind of organically or proactively moved towards sustainability. I always thought, that there are many things that are similar to the two areas, digital transformation and sustainability. I also know often in my discussions with people, I was talking about the complementarity and the connection between them, but I never came across, someone who was actually doing dedicated work and, put a framework and entire narrative around it. So, congrats once again, and you'll probably see me quoting some of your work going forward because I totally resonate with it. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to, the trends in science-based and sustainability, with my background coming from digital innovation, and you're mentioning in my intro, some of the work I had the privilege to lead at World Economic Forum beyond some of this generic digital transformation, digital innovation. I even had a community, for instance, on quantum computing. And that's one technology that I'm super excited of what's coming, and hopefully not too late future in distance, because when you combine quantum computing with the new AI capabilities, we're going to feel, like it's a new magical world of possibilities in front of us. But coming, from this angle of what the new digital capabilities can enable, I actually think, looking from the angle of sustainability nowadays, what's available for companies and for the society. If I were to simplify and I look at some low-hanging fruits, I think, the basic leveraging data insights. I see more and more companies getting a lot more sophisticated in this. And I mean, this is not necessarily a new capability, right? I mean, data science has been existing for a long time, but I still see companies that only in the recent years, maybe in the last 3 years, they have been actually cascading down and, really creating those data science centers of expertise across the different business units. And I hear, a lot of people who are like, wow, this is magical. Like suddenly, we knew we were sitting on all this data, but no one was doing anything with it. Now, especially when you combine, this data insights with some of the new software, a lot of the software, of course, also enabled by AI in terms of prediction and forecast. they realize, how much money and time they can save, and of course, coming up with a very accelerated roadmap for sustainability solutions. So things that maybe, used to take years now can be done in weeks. So that's, something extremely important. And I will always encourage, companies or any executive really, make sure you fully leverage all the data that you have around you, because there's almost for sure, a lost opportunity waiting for you somewhere on the table. The last thing, the next thing, if this is, let's say, in my view, those are low-hanging fruits. The next generation of technologies, and this is also an area which, through the scope of work, what my startup curator.com does, which is, really helping companies to find most of the relevant sustainability tech vendors. We have by default exposure every day to some of those next generation technologies. Some of the technologies that are not yet at scale, if it's hydrogen or green materials, or even actually one of the most recent engagements we have now with a partner, it's on micro nuclear reactors. Which, it's almost when you start the discussions, like, are you for real? Are you just talking about some science fiction here? Like, no, they're like, the technologies are now at the stage where, we can talk about micro nuclear reactors next, to our industrial operations. And we want to, be very early on this, because those micro nuclear reactors can help them accomplish their 2050, net zero targets. And, it's just mind blowing that we got to the stage where those are real corporate projects, that companies are investing a lot of significant time and money into making it happen. So yeah, all in all, it's a super exciting space. I think people like us are very lucky to be alive in this time of the human history when all those capabilities are coming together. And of course, there's a significant acceleration in terms of how fast they reach to the next stage.
Thank you. And by the way, we have micro nuclear reactors for many years. We call them nuclear submarines.
True, true, true. Yeah, actually,
The
this was also part of
technology.
the discussion of how to transfer something that has been in the military area for a long time into a space that's now supposed to be commercial. But of course, since we're talking still nuclear technologies, there is risk involved there. So you need the right policy, context, and even from a risk perspective, right? We're talking about like, okay, what will happen when a company is responsible for the accident of such nuclear microreactor, right? I mean, probably it would be pretty tough to find an insurance company willing to take that contract, nowadays. So there are many implications, you're right, Manuel, beyond the technological evolution.
Absolutely. And that dovetails a little bit in a discussion about digital transformation and AI, and you mentioned also quantum computing. So I think we have all the technology on the table for discussion today. But what are the challenges and opportunities, especially in the area of digital transformation and connection with AI? And before I go into that question, thank you for connecting digital transformation and sustainability. I call them transformation digital and transformation sustainability because transformation is the key linking word. But going back to the question, uh, do you have some examples of digital transformation and AI successes you deal with in the area of sustainability?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, maybe taking a step back, when it comes to, digital transformation success stories or failure stories, because we know, right, there are many of those. And I think, it's always fascinating how you see those statistics getting viral very easily, right? Like percentage of digital transformation or digital innovation projects that fail on the corporate side. And the numbers is always very high. I must say, when I started first working in digital transformation on the corporate side, so this was before I had the privilege to lead a digital innovation portfolio for World Economic Forum. And in that WEF world, I really had a chance to be exposed to a very high number of corporations and being exposed, and having access to their internal kitchen when it comes to digital transformation. And what struck me, is that it was kind of agnostic to the challenges were agnostic to the industry. Initially I would have thought, well, there are some industries that are, that if you take, I don't know, consumers, right, or or financials or electronics, they are by default quite advanced. So they will probably have very different challenges when it comes to digital transformation to compare to more traditional industries, maybe lower margins industries that don't have the luxury to invest as aggressively. But actually, I learned very fast that the main challenge was always not necessarily related to technologies, not necessarily related to financial resources, the budgets to be available. It was always coming to the people. It was always coming to the mindset, always coming to the change management, and of course leadership, right? So the guiding way to transform all this. And I must say that initially, stepping back into when I started working in digital transformation in my corporate world, because I've been, always a type of bottom-up champion for digital transformation without even knowing. I've been always kind of, fascinated and involved on the technical side, even as a teenager or in my first job. So many of the key advantages of digital capabilities were so obvious to me that I couldn't really understand why, organizations, corporations are not, jumping with speed at, leveraging those new digital capabilities and scaling them, across the organization. And then I realized this was a naive point of view because probably, every person who has a specific niche expertise. Let me take a metaphor here. So let's say, I want to renovate my house, and then you invite, someone who is responsible for this. It's enough for them, to step into the living room and, they have a quick look around, and in their head, they already know exactly what needs to be done, probably what's, the timeline, the budget. But this doesn't mean that it's easy for them then to convince, right, the client that, okay, this is what you have to do. Those are the materials. This is how much you have to invest. So it was similar for me, the time in the corporate, my first instinct was like just telling people we have to do this, A, B, C, D. It will take so much, and it was total rejection, right? So I had to learn really the act of patience and change management, and of course being part of some different work streams. And it took a very long time to achieve things that I thought were quite obvious. But then linking to the second part of your question, how digital transformation and in combination with AI and sustainability. I mean, as we know, right, AI in itself, it's not a new capability, but it's also a very broad umbrella. Even if we look a little bit historically in the recent decades, there have been a few AI winters, but also, AI has many ways to change our life. I mean, if you take it simple from Google Translate, right, how it learns, or getting our recommendations on YouTube or on Netflix, right, that's AI. But of course, what's happening in the more recent years, especially since now we're very close to the 2-year anniversary of OpenAI launching ChatGPT. Everyone has been blown away, right, by this new wave of AI and the new capabilities. And even, I mean, recently, watching the list of Nobel Prizes, and one of them being for chemistry for the team at Google DeepMind AlphaFold, with their new capacity of predicting the structure of known proteins, which facilitates, the discovery of new chemical, new drugs. I mean, those are extremely exciting years. I mean, it used to be take one person, one PhD to basically, get to know one of these proteins, and now we know millions of them through the help of AI models. And when you start taking those new AI capabilities and looking from the sustainability lens, I mean, predicting natural disasters, that's something that can be done at a completely new level with AI. And we've seen the frequency and the how bad the current natural disasters are. Or if I take something more industrial, which a lot of companies, I'm surprised to know how much they've underestimated. For instance, AI optimization of their energy. When you have at the global scale, hundreds or thousands of warehouses and office buildings, just implementing an AI energy optimization software suddenly drastically reduces the carbon footprint for the corporation. And of course, it's a chain reaction, right? They save money and stuff like that. Or, if I go back to chemistry, I really love everything that's happening in the space of new chemistries. If I take batteries, for instance, right, we need a ton of more evolution there. Or, there's a very big discussion right now around the world around PFAS, all these forever chemicals. So through AI now, it seems we're getting some promising ways of getting rid of them. So yeah, it's I mean it's such a fascinating time to see this intersection of traditional digital capabilities because obviously you still need that data, especially to train some of those machine learning models. But then in combination with all the new AI possibilities, and I love it that it's not just the large players that maybe I was mentioning the Google DeepMind example. Okay, yes, Google it's one this giant organization that has been having the luxury of having teams investigating something like this. But the explosion of startups, of scale-ups who come up with some of those solutions, it's absolutely incredible. Recently, I came across the list of Time Magazine best 2024 inventions, and I didn't expect actually the list to have so many examples of AI and healthcare, AI and sustainability, AI and waste. It's a new generation of startups and innovations that are coming, and I think the only thing that's missing it's maybe shortening the gap between early adoption and mass adoption. Because I mean we're talking sustainability, right? We're talking climate change. We don't really have time for a slow adoption. We don't really have time for a lot of experimentation. So I think the more people start trusting that with those new capabilities we can reduce the risks, we can accelerate the decarbonization journeys, the better it will be for everyone.
In the role of AI, actually, I wanted to sort of get your vantage point from Curator and from World Economic Forum, right? So this seemed to be one, it's a startup, and one, it's a world, the largest economic forum in the world. No, the name says it. How do you see the role of people? Because you mentioned at the beginning that digital transformation starts as people. And what's the role of leadership? You mentioned it briefly as well.
Yeah, I mean, leadership is it's again something that maybe for those particular topics like digital innovation at the time when I was working in corporate in those roles, I underestimated. So to give you an anecdote, for instance, the first time when the group CEO, the corporation I was part of for many years, mentioned we need to be more digital, everyone in every business unit, every function started doing something in to basically have a checkpoint like okay now we're digital, and as a result there were hundreds of new apps for customers, new websites, and of course that actually made things so much worse for the customer and for the corporation because nothing was interconnected, everything was disconnected, everything looked differently, everything was with the different standards. So then we had to accept a total reset, organizational reset. It had to come also from the top. The leadership message had to be a lot clearer and saying, okay, it's not enough to do something, digital just for the sake of doing some digital transformation project. It needs a North Star. In that case, the North Star was customer experience, right? In the end, you're trying to leverage digital capabilities in order to reach an outcome. And that outcome, if you start with simplifying your customer's life, it's probably also going to be beneficial for the corporation from many perspectives. And I totally underestimated, the role leadership needs to play in having that clear narrative like okay yes we're dedicating time and energy and resources to digital transformation, but there is a North Star. It has to serve our customers. How does it serve our customers? We need to collaborate, we need to make things interconnected. We have to make sure we have some principle there. So suddenly the discussion was shifted very quickly from new digital capabilities to governance, to leadership, to organizational values. And I think, many people even today, they are underestimating those organizational angles when it comes to sustainability, deployment and scaling, when it comes to AI. It's the same. I see cycles. That's why, again, talking about the intro, right? How is digital transformation connected to sustainability? It is a very different topic, but ultimately it's done by people for people, and you need to go through the same cycle. So if an organization or as a society, we are aware of those learnings, we can learn from the history, then we can accelerate significantly the next stages.
Uh, when we talk about humans, we talk about ethics. And when we talk about ethics on this talk show, I defer the question to Isabella.
Sorry, let me just turn on the light. The sunset here is like 2 seconds and then it's pure dark. Christian, you know,
I
right?
know it. I know it.
Yeah. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you for always bringing up the ethic questions and connect with what Christian doing. Also, I love to hear how do you see this during your sustainability transformation process because I see it very connected. It's like a very practical social impact as a consequence of technology advancement. Um, Feel free to share anything that you have in mind so far, and I'll follow up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think you're totally right to always make sure we bring up ethics in this discussion of advancing digital capabilities. Because unfortunately, I think, the trends show us that if we don't pay attention to the ethics and to, in general, to the digital divide, um, the people who already have access to very mature digital capabilities, they will only get access to even more mature things, and you're just widening that divide. I must step back again to the time when I was working for World Economic Forum, when I was exposed to the work done by some of my colleagues in other departments. And for instance, I was surprised how ignorant I was. For instance, I had to learn at the time that so something like 50% of the global population didn't have access to the internet, which, when you kind of grow up in, Europe, and you have, this type of corporate job, you're always, somehow surrounded by people with, a lot of access to digital capabilities. And it's easy to forget that those numbers can be giant. And then you have a domino effect of negative implications for the lives of those people. And again, at the time, it was half of the planet. Now I think it's a third of the planet that still doesn't have access to the internet. I mean, just think, lack of communication, right, with people, lack of access to insights, right? You're not able to research. Imagine how many times we use Google or ChatGPT or YouTube to find an answer to a question. Those people don't have that possibility. Then it comes, to access to education. Without access to education, probably you're not going to have the chance, to get a good job. And suddenly, you have all this inequality that can impact their entire life, or even, for generations being transmitted to their children. And it starts with such a basic thing, having access to internet. So, when I started being exposed to those things, as well as the Oxfam yearly reports on inequality, you're probably, or a lot of people must be familiar with the Oxfam nonprofit. Some of those stats, I encourage everyone to check them. They're so shocking, and I think it's important that those of us who, have had the luck, to be maybe born in parts of the world where access to the internet, or access to education, or access to well-paid jobs comes a bit more organic. To recognize, first of all, how grateful we should be for this chance, but also to think if we can allocate part of our time, part of our energy, part of our financial resources to close this digital divide. Because sometimes it's shocking how little has to be invested to make a difference for a very high number of people. So especially now, if we bring it back to the AI capabilities, I mean, we are talking now, about how to leverage the latest machine learning capabilities, and integrate them in corporate processes. And when we compare such a discussion where, we're talking quantum computing, and we compare this with people who don't have access to the internet, right? I mean, it's almost incredible that difference. So, ethics, it's something that I hope, it will come more proactively as a discussion point for more and more organizations on the private sector as well, that it's not only left to the public sector, it's not only left to nonprofits, like Oxfam and others who try to bring this into the spotlight. Because again, with little allocation of those resources, it can make a giant difference. And in the end, it will benefit everyone, right? I mean, if we have, hundreds of millions more of more educated people with, this means more skills set available, more, consumer demand, and so on. So in the end, it's not even philanthropy. It's actually, an investment in a future that we can all benefit from.